Let's move on to another critically important story, and that's the ongoing conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is, of course, also regional in many different ways. And we are very, very honored to be joined here on the show by Claude Gatebuke, who is a survivor of the Rwandan Genocide, the co-author of the book Survivors Uncensored, and the executive director and co-founder of the African Great Lakes Action Network. Claude, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Great honor to be with you both, Rani and Eugene.
Well, it's an honor to have you here, and I guess I wanted to start because with this point here, I mean the Rwandan government has essentially held out that its support for M23, its entire purpose for doing everything they're doing in the Eastern DRC, is to protect the people of Rwanda from a renewed genocide. It has nothing to do with minerals or anything else, and I wonder how you respond to that justification being put out there by the Rwandan government, M23 and others.
Before I start with that, I'll just have to echo what Rania just said, that the mainstream media covers up not only the previous segment, what's happening in Palestine, but also what's happening in Congo today. This is the deadliest conflict since World War II, and it's the most underreported. So I just wanted to underscore that. Now, to respond to your question about, Rwanda's justifying, basically, I know you called it support for the M23, but it's really Rwanda and Uganda have invaded Congo. Over the last 30 years, since 1996, Rwanda and Ugandan troops have gone into the Congo, and I'm looking at these, some of the images. Some of them show the rebels, some of them show the Congolese military, but you can't tell the difference. A rebel group in an African country or most other countries, some of them are going to have on a red Michael Jordan jersey. Another one's going to have a purple Kobe jersey and some sandals. The M23 is a well-equipped Rwandan and Ugandan army that are invading the Congo. Now, with Rwanda saying that they are doing it to protect Rwandans and specifically ethnic Tutsis from another genocide or because they're discriminated against, it's a big lie. It's simple. If you're going in a place to fight discrimination, why do you go and start amputating women's genitals? Why do you go and burn people alive, bury people alive in major massacres of just horrible disproportion? And then why do they go to the mines? If it's about freeing people, why occupy the mining towns and free the people themselves? So it's and then millions of Congolese, more than 7 million Congolese people have been displaced out of their homes as a result of this invasion, war of aggression by Rwanda and Uganda, with the support of the US and the UK and the European Union. These are the countries that fund these two governments. They train them militarily. They provide military support. They protect them in the media, and they also shield them from accountability whenever things like, for example, a couple of times there has been reports that show Rwanda's involvement in the atrocities, not in the freeing of the people, but in the atrocities in the Congo by UN groups of experts. The US mission to the UN has attempted on multiple occasions to block those reports from being released. And the only reason why we saw them in the public is because they were leaked to the media. So what we have is Rwanda basically going in there. They're behaving like Israel, going in there and going and massacring all of these Congolese people and saying that they're fighting for the freedom of, now they've changed it from Congolese Tutsis to Kinyarwanda speakers. They are the first, actually when Rwanda first invaded Congo, they went after Kinyarwanda speakers. They went into the refugee camps of Rwandans that had more than 500,000 people in those camps, and they surrounded them and started bombing them. That's we've got that in our books. Like people's testimonies of what happened in those refugee camps. They're doing that now. They're going into refugee camps and destroying refugee camps. How do you know, and how can you tell the difference between a Hutu, a Tutsi, another ethnic group in the Congo, a Luba or whatever other group in the Congo, from a Kinyarwanda speaker when you are shooting indiscriminately into the crowds? You can't tell, and it's just a really bad excuse. And anybody that believes it, they believe it because they are just supporting the Rwanda government, not because it's actually the truth.
Claude, I think you made such an important parallel with the idea of this is like the way Israel behaves on a number of levels. I mean, I think especially the invoking one genocide to justify horrific violence that's actually being done in the name of imperialism. In both those cases. And in the case of what Rwanda is doing in Congo, I'm curious if you can explain to us what role do multinational corporations and Western governments play in enabling the plunder of Congo's vast mineral wealth through this sort of proxy war that's, Rwanda is at the forefront of.
I'm so glad you asked that question because I had missed that, actually addressing that when I first spoke about Rwanda's invasion and Uganda's invasion of Congo. What Rwanda's military and Uganda's military serve as in Congo is basically local mercenaries who are securing the mines in Congo's resources. Congo is the richest country in the world in terms of natural resources, with $24 trillion, worth of minerals. And what it is what Rwanda and Uganda provide. They provide access to those mines. They go, they displace the people, they occupy the areas, they enslave the local population. You have children as young as 10, 11, 12 working in the mines, long hours, horrible conditions, and then the resources are plundered out of the Congo. They're taken to Rwanda and Uganda, and they're shipped to the global market. And there are companies from all over the world. There are a lot of companies from, surprisingly or unsurprisingly to many, a lot of Canadian companies on the Toronto stock market. A lot of companies from the US, from France, from the UK, Belgium, and a number of other places that are in the Congo exploiting the Congolese. So what it is it's a war to secure the resources in the Congo, and Rwandan troops and Ugandan troops are providing the local mercenaries to do that, to displace the people, but also to secure those interests. I'll give you an example. In northeast Congo, near the Uganda border, there are some oil reserves. Right now, French oil company Total is exploiting those oil reserves, and guess who is giving them access to those reserves? It's the Ugandan troops. And so that is really what it is that's happening. You have two African dictators, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda and Paul Kagame of Rwanda, who are darlings of the West, and who are providing that access to the resources to the multinationals. So the multinationals, actually, some of them pay these armed groups to secure the mines for them. And so there's also a Swiss, Dan Gertler, Glencore is one of the largest mining companies in the Congo. He's actually been found guilty in U.S. By the U.S. Of crimes. Yet he is actually, his company and he himself is still involved. I believe Dan Gertler is an Israeli, by the way. I'm not 100%. I have to double check that. But he's an Israeli business person, and his company is exploiting the Congolese people. Been found guilty, but has not, been held accountable for those crimes. So that's just a few of the examples. But the key is that these troops are there to secure the resources of the Congo, to make them cheap for these multinationals, so that they are able to be super profitable. A few things that we get from the Congo, the gadgets that we use, electronic gadgets that we use, are powered by coltan out of the Congo. The lithium batteries, so many things that are happening with the green revolution. The resources that are used for that, the raw resources that are used for that, come out of the Congo. Last thing, Rwanda has virtually no coltan in its soil, but it is the top exporter of coltan in the world. And if you look from the time that Congo was invaded, there are two things that happen if you look at Rwanda's economy. One is the export of minerals not found in the soil of Rwanda and Uganda, by the way. They grew exponentially, as if all of a sudden they found ways to mine and discovered mines, and just overnight were able to ship to the rest of the world that much resources. The second thing is Rwanda's economy has grown, is one of the fastest growing economies. It's still subsidized, highly subsidized by aid, foreign aid. But it's, and also some of the numbers have been questionable. But a lot of the development is using resources plundered out of the Congo. So those are the two things, two signs. I mean, sometimes like there's a saying in Kinyarwanda that says, you're never mistaken about who stole from you. You just don't know where they hid your property. In Rwanda, they can't really hide it that well because there's obviously the exports to the global market, and there's also the visible development at the expense of Congo, especially the Congolese people.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the last few minutes we have here, I also want to ask you about this issue that we've seen from many of the Western powers who are long supporters of Congo. Now, they're all kind of falling over each other to put out these statements saying they want a ceasefire, they want this, they want that, essentially trying to escape any real responsibility for their support for Rwanda. And of course, supporters of Rwanda are really playing this up, especially on social media, saying, oh, look, this sees how the West is actually against us, not for us, as we're being accused. So I just wonder how you see all that.
My view of the attitude of the West toward Rwanda, I believe when you say supporters, Western supporters of Congo, you meant Rwanda, who are falling over themselves to
yes.
to put out all this. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So they're putting out all these statements, but from what I've seen over the years, it's lip service. And lip service is not, that's just performative stuff. It's not really until something happens where we've seen before. Right now, Rwandan troops and Ugandan troops in the Congo call themselves the M23. They always use all of these acronyms. So this is the latest incarnation. There was a previous incarnation of the M23 in 2012 that had displaced almost 1 million people. And what happened in a space of a few months, what happened was Western countries actually decided to withhold aid from Rwanda. And within months, the M23 disappeared. They went into the camps in Uganda because obviously the money was drying up. And they went into the refugee camps in Uganda. And then 10 years later, they sprung back up and came back and invaded Congo. So they have leverage. They don't use the leverage. They just do lip service. They do a lot of talking. Right now, for example, in the European Union, two examples with the European Union. A couple years ago, they put out statements condemning Rwanda's support for the M23, turned around and gave them $20 million to not for education, not humanitarian aid, to the military, $20 million. And they said, oh yeah, this is just to go to Rwanda's operations in Mozambique. By the way, Rwandan military is there to secure French oil, Total's access to the oil in Mozambique. They give them those $20 million as if the weapons that they're going to get or whatever military equipment they're going to get, they're not going to use it in the Congo. So on one hand, they condemned. On the other hand, they gave them money. Right now in the European Union, there is a debate on putting sanctions on Rwanda. Right, the French president Emmanuel Macron is getting in the way, and it seems like France is the main one getting in the way. Had they put sanctions on Rwanda in terms of economics, they also have a memorandum of understanding for exploiting raw material worth almost $1 billion over the next few years. If they were to stop those things, Rwanda would not be able to afford. It's one of the poorest countries. In spite of that growing economy, it's one of the poorest countries in the world. They would not be able to invade the Congo. They would not be able to maintain this military presence and occupation of the Congo. So I find it hypocritical. I find it to be lip service. And until there is action, I think it's a lot of talk to look like they're doing something, and to also distance themselves from the public outrage against on the atrocities being committed against the Congolese people. And it's thanks to news media like yours that's actually putting this out, and individuals doing this work. It's not because they're there is anything else that's pushing them. It's because people are speaking up.
Claude Gatebuke, survivor of the Rwandan Genocide, co-author of the book Survivors Uncensored, and executive director and co-founder of the African Great Lakes Action Network. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Freedom Side and sorting through all of this.
Thank you.